Good morning. I bet you're thinking, man, she wears the same shirt every single day and she looks the same. Well, that's because I record all your whole week's worth of lessons in one time, just in one sitting down. So that's why I have the same shirt on every day, because for me, it's the same day as it was on Monday. But for you, it's a different day. So that's why I have the same shirt on. But I do have different shirts, just in case you're wondering. Okay, let's look in your book on page 37. Now, we're just going to have one little tiny work text to do today, so you're really not going to have much of an assignment, really no assignment. But remember yesterday when we were talking about how Congress took over from the president and said, no, President, no. You are not going to be in charge of the Reconstruction because you're causing a mess. You're just giving the South all this freedom to do stuff, and we need you to bring us together. So remember how Congress said, okay, we're going to make these laws. We're going to pass them. President vetoed them. They said, we don't care. 2/3 voted and put it into law. Okay. Remember one of the laws that they had passed was that they made the Freedmen's Bureau. Well, we're going to read on page 37 a little bit more about how the Freedmen's Bureau worked. Then we're going to read about how the military started overseeing the Reconstruction, which is I think maybe a good idea. And then we're going to look at some constitutional amendments, okay? Look at page 37. Now, throughout the Reconstruction, many in Congress tried to improve life in the South. Sometimes Congress forgot how different the South was from the North, and this made Congress's changes hard for Southerners. Still, Congress tried to help. One of the main ways Congress tried to help was by starting the Freedmen's Bureau, also called the Bureau. It began at the end of the Civil War. The Bureau's job was to help anyone in the South who suffered from the war. The Bureau helped settle people who had lost their homes during the war. As time went on, the Bureau did much more. It sent aid to the needy. It provided schools for freedmen. It improved treatment of black workers by their employers. It ran hospitals. The Bureau also had power to give away abandoned land. Although the Bureau was set up to help all Southerners, its work focused on the freedmen. Because the Bureau was closely tied to black people, few white Southerners wanted its help. The Bureau spent much energy to improve the freedmen's conditions. The Bureau probably did most of the good by helping to organize schools and for freedmen's children. Many Northerners wanted to help the freedmen. Notice the word many, not all. These Northerners sent money and teachers to the South. The Bureau made sure the people and funds went to help the projects that the Bureau thought were good. So the Bureau was a very good program to help anybody who was affected by the war in the South. And most of those then were black people, because a lot of the white people didn't want its help because it came from and it involved black people, and that's how they felt in those days. Now, what problem did Congress have in trying to improve the conditions in the South? They ran into some problems. Remember? I said it in the very beginning of what we just read. They forgot that the South was different than the North. There was a whole different way of life in the South than from the North. And so these from the North were trying to make the South like the North, and they were running into some problems there. All right, and what was it that the Bureau helped most by doing? Schools for the freedmen's children. Look at page 38. Here we have some pictures of some African American legislators. These were in the Congress, and they helped with the Freedmen's Bureau. Now let's read about the military helping with the Reconstruction. Congress also tried to help Reconstruction through the military. Congress put Northern soldiers in the South. This displeased the Southerners, but the Army's presence helped encourage better behavior toward the freedmen and the Republicans. Early in 1867, Congress passed a new law. The first Reconstruction Act set up 5 military districts throughout the South. A general was put in charge of each district. State governments that were already in power were allowed to continue. However, the general could overrule them if he thought it was necessary. The generals were in charge of overseeing political reconstruction. First, each state had to write a new constitution. This would allow a state to get back its political independence. The construction had to give freedmen the right to vote. Also, some former Confederates would not be allowed to vote. Second, a majority of legal or lawful voters must approve the new Constitution. Then each state could send representatives to Congress and be a part of making laws for America. Now, there's a map there at the bottom of page 38 with the military districts on there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see the different colors there. 5 different colors because there were 5 different military districts. Looks like Texas and Louisiana were the 5th area. All right, let's look at the last page for today's lesson. This is page 39. This is going over the constitutional amendments. When our Constitution was set up, they didn't put everything in there because they couldn't think of everything and they didn't know some of the issues that were going to come up later on. And so they allowed our Constitution to have amendments or changes or additions added to it. And so here's some of the ones that they added. During Reconstruction, Congress also passed 3 amendments or changes to the United States Constitution. These helped to make sure Americans were treated fairly and equally. Congress said that the southern states had to approve the amendments. If they did not, they could not rejoin the Union. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. Abolish means did away with it completely. Congress passed this amendment before the Civil War ended. In late 1865, enough states voted in favor of the amendment, and it did become a law. The 14th Amendment made the freemen citizens. It stated that anyone born in the United States was a citizen. The amendment also promised that all citizens of the United States would receive equal treatment under the law. Congress proposed this amendment in 1866, and it took 2 years for the amendment to become law. Many states in the South voted against it at first, but in the end, they all accepted it to rejoin the United States. Even after the 14th Amendment passed, some states refused to let freedmen vote. The 15th Amendment was the last Reconstruction Amendment. It said that a person's race or skin color was not a legal reason to prevent anyone from voting. A citizen of any race could vote. Through the Freedmen's Bureau, the military overseeing Reconstruction, and the Reconstruction Amendments, Congress tried to make life more fair for the freedmen. Some results happened right away. Some results, though, took many years to take place. So, Congress, I think, did a good job overall. I think the military was a good idea, and I think all that came together, and I think those amendments were fantastic amendments. Let's look at our work text page on page 19. There's just a constitutional amendment up here. The first one's over the 13th Amendment. The second one's the 14th Amendment. And the last one there is the 15th Amendment. Let's look at the 13th. So the 13th abolished slavery. Slavery goes in that blank. That means it did away with it completely. Now, it was passed before the what ended? The Civil War. It was passed before the Civil War ended. That's the next blank. In what year did that become law? 1865. Good. Look at the 14th Amendment. It granted citizenship to anyone born in the United States. And then it gave what kind of treatment to all citizens? Equal. All citizens would be treated equally. So equal goes in that blank. It became law in 1868. And then the 15th Amendment allowed American citizens of any race to vote. There you go. Good deal. All right. Well, you have no assignment for this week, the rest of this week. And next week, we will begin on lesson 13. And we'll work to finish this chapter out. I hope you have a good weekend.